Thank you. Thank you. So what is the present value of future cash outflows? Who remembers? Yes, we need to pay for 3 years, 200 cash units at the end of each year, but discounted, because this is present value of future cash outflows, discounted to the present, remember that this was the amount of 545. So as you see, the exercise will not ask you to discount the values. They are already there, just put them in their own place and compare with each other. Now, this is usually known as net present value of cash flows. This is the difference between both. Now what I'm doing is that what is a cash outflow, I'm putting a minus so we can understand that this is actually a payment. The net present value of cash flows is the sum between inflows and outflows, and that is 355, so the sum of both of them. So, of course, before you continue, take into account the non-financial risk adjustment. Non-financial risk adjustment. How much is that? We were provided with this information over here is 120. How did we come up with that figure? Again, it's not important. Someone else does this job. They are paid for this. Our job is to just compare the figures and to account correctly for the insurance contract. Here we have made it fulfillment cash flows to calculate the first component of the contract. Fulfillment cash flows are equal with 235 cash unit, and that is a positive amount. That means that this is my expected profit. And to continue, contract service. Can I help with something? Can I explain again? Excuse me? Can I explain something for you? If you want, we can go through that again. What we are doing, comparing cash flows, inflows, outflows, combine them together, okay? Then add the non-financial risk, combine them together, you take the first important amount over here, fulfillment cash flows. Now remember, this is the initial recognition. The standard told you that no day one profit. This is something to take away from this lecture, by the way. That means that when you recognize right now the contract, you need to recognize the amount of zero over here. How do you come up with a zero amount? If you recognize the contract service margin equal but with a minus sign with fulfillment cash flows, this is the contract liability at initial recognition. The contract liability at initial recognition is zero. Why it is zero again? It is before receiving the premium. You have not received any money yet. You are not obliged to anyone. You have no liabilities for the moment. This is before taking the money in, before receiving the premium. Is that okay? Now, things are very easy after that. Remember, contract service margin is minus 235 cash units. With this in mind, we continue. The next day, we receive the money in. Things change. Because with the receipt of the money, I have a liability, and I have to account for that liability right now. Again, what changes? To earn some time, the same lines are going to be written over here again. Sorry that I'm just copying and pasting due to time constraint. The present value of future cash inflows. Again, the premium is received. This is the key word here. Okay. The premium is received. Now, what is the present value of future cash inflows in this moment? After I'm receiving the money, am I expecting any more money for the future? No, zero here, okay? The present value of future cash outflows, it will be the same, 500. It will be the same as before. Why? Because the payments are still to be made in the future, whereas the premium has already been received. That is, in the future, no more premium, but still payments to be done. The net present of future cash outflows in this moment is the sum of both. That means that the net present value of future cash flows after receiving premium is minus 545. What is the non-financial risk adjustment? Remember, it was minus 120. That means that after receiving the premium, the fulfillment cash flows is equal in this moment with 665 cash units. Remember what I told you before. After receiving the premium, the fulfillment cash flows represent the total expenses from this contract that will be divided or allocated in the time span of 3 years. After you account for this contract for 3 years, at the end of year 3, when you gather together all the expenditure, they should be 665, okay? So you can check yourself, are you correct or not? Contract service margin, how much was that? Remember the same figure that I mentioned before. Contract service margin, 235. And the contract liability after receiving the premium, of course, it is always the sum between the fulfillment cash flows and contract service margin. The contract liability is 900 cash unit. The accounting entry in this moment, debit. Okay, whatever. Debit, cash account with 900 cash unit. And credit, which account? Insurance contract. Again, with 900 cash unit. Again, this is the accounting entry that we do when we receive the premium. We debit cash account because we receive some money, and we credit the contract liability. Now, this is what we see from the financial statements, but according to IFRS 17, in the notes, I have to disaggregate these 900 cash units into two components, and you see over here. Fulfillment cash flows is 665, whereas 235 is the contract service margin. That is, we have made all these calculations with this specific purpose in order to be able to disclose in the notes of the financial statements that the amount of the contract liability of 900 cash units is divided into two parts. One is the overall expenditure that I'm expected to use and to do for this contract, 665, and the other is the net profit that I'm expecting to receive from this insurance contract over the 3 years, 235. Okay? Did you understand anything at all? Just the thing? Okay, because this is simple. When you go over the next sheet over here, this is the subsequent recognition at your end of year 1, year 2, year 3. Every calculation is here. You can look for yourself because it will be uploaded on Moodle. For everyone who is interested to learn and study more about insurance contracts, I will be happy to provide answers for you. So we say goodbye for today and see you tomorrow. It will be a long day tomorrow and the day after tomorrow. So bring a lot of coffee and energy with you. See you tomorrow then.